Have you ever noticed how much of your energy goes into wondering what others think about you? How much of your peace you trade for approval? It's a quiet prison, one most of us don't even realize we live in. The Stoics, thousands of years ago, saw this very trap and warned us. You are enslaved by the opinion of others when you need their validation to feel whole. Marcus Aurelius wrote that if you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your judgment about it. And yet, in our modern world, where every like, comment and view has become a silent verdict, we've made the opinions of strangers the compass for our worth. But what if you stopped caring about what anyone thinks? What if instead of chasing popularity, you started pursuing truth? This is where real freedom begins. Not when you have more followers, more approval, or more applause, but when you have more self-trust. The kind that doesn't waver when misunderstood or doubted. The kind that allows you to walk alone, unshaken, because you know your direction. The Stoics called this autarkia, self-sufficiency. It's the power to be whole within yourself, even when the world around you disagrees or misunderstands you. Most people spend their lives performing, pretending, adjusting who they are to fit into a mold that was never designed for them. But the person who lives by Stoic principles refuses to wear masks. He knows that honesty may not get him many friends, but it will always bring the right ones. Honesty in its purest form is not about being blunt. It's about being authentic. It's about refusing to compromise your values just to belong. Seneca said, "He who seeks to please everyone pleases no one." So stop chasing the applause of the crowd, because crowds are fickle. Today they cheer, tomorrow they forget your name. You must learn to anchor your peace not in others' praise, but in your own alignment with truth. That's why Stoicism teaches us to look inward, to live as if no one is watching, yet act as if everyone will one day see your soul. That kind of integrity cannot be faked. But here's the paradox. When you stop trying to impress people, you naturally start to impress the right ones. When you no longer seek attention, you draw it from those who recognize strength in stillness. Life becomes quieter, but infinitely more meaningful. The wrong people leave, and the right people stay. Because authenticity doesn't attract everyone. It attracts those who matter. This is the first step toward true Stoic mastery. To detach from approval and to live by principle, not popularity. And once you begin this path, you'll realize how much time you've wasted worrying about what others think, time that could have been spent becoming who you truly are. So ask yourself this: if today were your last day, would you still care about how many people approved of you? Or would you care whether you lived honestly, courageously, and true to yourself? That's the question that separates the common from the wise. Because while most people are busy seeking attention, the Stoic seeks peace. And that, my friend, is the rarest treasure in the modern world. There comes a moment in every person's life when the noise fades, when the crowd leaves, and you find yourself sitting alone with your thoughts. For some, that silence feels unbearable. For the Stoic, that silence is sacred, because it's only in solitude that you truly meet yourself. Epictetus once said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." Most people think freedom means doing whatever you want, but the Stoics knew real freedom means being able to sit with yourself and not feel empty. We live in a world that fears loneliness, yet seeks constant distraction. But there's a truth that modern life hides from you. Being alone isn't a punishment, it's preparation. When you learn to be content by yourself, you stop being emotionally dependent on others for happiness, and that's where your power begins. The person who cannot be alone is weak, because their peace depends on someone else's presence. The person who thrives in solitude is unshakable, because their peace depends on nothing external. The Stoic learns to use solitude not as isolation, but as refinement. When everyone leaves, what remains is you, your discipline, your thoughts, your virtues. If those are weak, the silence will break you. If those are strong, the silence will build you. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire, yet wrote his greatest wisdom alone in a tent between battles. Seneca had immense wealth and influence, yet spent his final years in quiet reflection, preparing his soul for death. Solitude did not weaken them, it fortified them. But here's the paradox: the modern world hides from you. The more you learn to be alone, the more magnetic you become. Because when you no longer need anyone, people are drawn to your peace. When you no longer chase attention, it finds you. When you no longer cling, you attract. It's the law of emotional gravity. People can sense stability, and they're starved for it. So, while everyone else is screaming for validation, the Stoic sits in silence, steady, calm, untouchable. He doesn't need company to feel complete, because his company is his own conscience. And when that conscience is clear, solitude feels like serenity, not punishment. Yet solitude isn't about avoiding people. It's about strengthening your relationship with yourself so you can relate to others from a place of wholeness, not need. When you don't need anyone to fill your emptiness, you can finally love people freely, without fear of loss or betrayal. You understand that people change, and sometimes even your closest friend can become a stranger. But instead of bitterness, the Stoic feels gratitude for every person who walked alongside them, even if only for a chapter. They know that letting go isn't weakness, it's wisdom. Because holding on to what no longer grows with you is the slowest form of self-destruction. So the next time you find yourself alone, don't rush to escape it. Sit there, listen, reflect. That's where your power returns. Your solitude is not a void. It's the forge where your mind, discipline, and peace are shaped. The modern world will tell you that being alone means you're missing something. The Stoics would tell you it means you've found everything you need. True strength isn't loud. It doesn't boast. It's the quiet confidence of a person who doesn't crumble when the world goes silent. It's in that silence that you'll find your most powerful companion, yourself. Most people think strength is shown through dominance, power, or loudness, but Stoicism teaches something radical. True power is invisible. It's not how much you can control others. It's how well you can control yourself. Imagine this. You're in traffic, someone cuts you off, and before you know it, anger explodes inside you. Your heart races, your mind burns, and you feel an uncontrollable urge to react. But pause for a moment and ask yourself, who's in control here? You or your emotions? The Stoics would say that if another person can make you angry, you've handed them your power. No man is free, Epictetus said, who is not master of himself. Modern life constantly tempts us to lose control. Social media outrage, arguments, jealousy, comparison, frustration. Every reaction is an invitation to chaos. But the Stoic refuses that invitation. Instead, he practices the art of the pause, the sacred moment between stimulus and response, where true freedom lives. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Think about that. Every problem you face becomes easier the moment you stop trying to control what's outside of you and focus on mastering what's within. Because anger, fear, jealousy, and sadness, they're not your enemies. They're signals, they're teachers, they're tests of how disciplined your mind truly is. Here's the truth. You can't avoid pain, but you can choose how to respond to it. You can't stop the storm, but you can learn to stand still in the rain. Emotional control isn't suppression, it's direction. It's choosing your response consciously instead of reacting impulsively. When someone insults you, you can lash out, or you can let silence speak louder. When things don't go your way, you can panic, or you can breathe and adapt. Stoicism teaches you to never make permanent decisions based on temporary emotions. Because every time you let anger, fear, or sadness steer your choices, you give up control of your destiny. The Stoic mind learns to observe emotions without being ruled by them, to let them pass like clouds, not define the sky. And here's the secret no one tells you. When you master your emotions, people can no longer manipulate you. You become ungovernable. Insults lose their sting. Criticism becomes feedback, not poison. Even failure turns into instruction. The Stoic becomes calm not because life is easy, but because they've trained their mind to remain centered no matter what happens. Seneca once wrote, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." Most of your stress, your anxiety, your fears, they're self-created illusions. You rehearse tragedies that never occur. You replay arguments that never happened. Overthinking becomes the enemy of peace. But once you realize this, you begin to regain power over your thoughts. Think of your emotions like wild horses. Untrained, they'll throw you off balance. But once you learn to ride them, to channel their energy, you become unstoppable. Your anger becomes passion. Your fear becomes awareness. Your sadness becomes depth. That's the transformation Stoicism offers, not emotionless detachment, but emotional mastery. The modern Stoic doesn't numb his feelings. He understands them, uses them, and lets them sharpen his awareness. Because when your emotions obey your reason, the world obeys your will. The next time you feel that familiar rush of rage or despair, don't fight it. Pause, observe, and remind yourself, I am not my emotions, I am the space between them. That space is where your true power lives. Fear. It's the most ancient emotion in human history. Before civilization, before comfort, before safety, fear was our companion in the wilderness. It warned us of danger and kept us alive. But in the modern world, fear has evolved into something far more subtle. It no longer hides in the shadows of predators. It hides in the corners of our minds. The fear of failing, of being judged, of not being enough. And yet, the Stoics saw fear not as a curse, but as a guide. Seneca once said, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." Fear, he believed, is proof that you care. It shows you where your growth lies. It points toward the very thing you must face to evolve. Think about it. Every time you've grown in life, it's been through fear. Your first speech, your first heartbreak, your first risk. Fear was there, whispering doubt into your ear. But the Stoic response is not to silence fear, but to walk with it. Marcus Aurelius didn't seek comfort. He sought the battlefield of the mind. He knew that courage is not the absence of fear, but the decision to act despite it. The same flame that burns can also light the way, depending on how you use it. The Stoic learns to turn that inner fire into fuel. When fear appears, he doesn't retreat, he leans in, because he knows fear always hides opportunity. What you fear most often reveals what you care about most deeply. The world teaches you to run from discomfort, to seek safety, predictability, and ease. But Stoicism flips that completely. It tells you that the moments you resist the most are the ones that hold your transformation. Fear is the gatekeeper to the life you want. Epictetus would say, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. In other words, stop waiting to feel ready. The conditions will never be perfect, and the courage will never come before action. It grows only after. Action is the cure for fear. Every small act of bravery compounds into confidence. Every confrontation with discomfort builds resilience. And the more often you walk through fear, the smaller it becomes. But here's the secret. Fear doesn't disappear. You just outgrow it. You start realizing that every time you faced something terrifying and survived, your mind became stronger. You become fearless, not because life gets easier, but because you've faced enough storms to know you can survive them. The Stoics faced exile, torture, even death. But their calmness was unshakable because they saw fear as training. Each hardship was a forge, each pain a lesson, each uncertainty an invitation to grow. They lived by a rule modern people have forgotten. Memento mori. Remember that you will die. It wasn't morbid, it was liberating. Because when you remember how fragile life is, fear loses its hold. What can you possibly lose when everything is temporary anyway? So the next time you feel fear creeping in, pause and listen. It's not there to stop you. It's there to show you that something meaningful awaits on the other side. The Stoic doesn't let fear dictate his path. He lets it illuminate it. He understands that courage is not an emotion. It's a discipline. It's the muscle that grows only through repetition. Every act of courage, no matter how small, expands your capacity to handle the next one. And one day, you'll look back and realize that what once terrified you now feels natural. Because fear never truly disappears. It simply transforms into power once you walk through it. So ask yourself, what would your life look like if you stopped letting fear drive your decisions? What dreams have you buried because of hesitation? What parts of yourself are still waiting for your courage to show up? The answer to those questions is not found in thinking, but in doing. That's where the Stoic lives, not in and less rumination, but in bold, disciplined action. In an age obsessed with instant results, we've forgotten one of the most powerful truths. Greatness is not built in moments, it's built in consistency. The Stoics knew this better than anyone. They didn't speak of motivation, they spoke of discipline. Seneca once said, "Luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity." But most people are too impatient to prepare. They crave shortcuts, not mastery. They want change, but not the routine that sustains it. The Stoic sees life differently. He sees every morning as a battlefield where discipline must conquer comfort. Each day is a small test of the soul. Each moment, a chance to either strengthen your will or weaken it. Discipline, for a Stoic, is sacred because it's the only proof of control you truly have. You can't command outcomes, but you can command effort. You can't control timing, but you can control consistency. Marcus Aurelius woke before dawn to write his thoughts, not because he felt like it, but because he knew his mind needed daily sharpening. He reminded himself, at dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, I must go to work as a human being. That's the essence of Stoic living, showing up even when it's hard, doing the right thing not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. A disciplined mind doesn't chase emotion, it follows purpose. But discipline isn't just about routine, it's about integrity. It's keeping promises to yourself even when no one's watching. It's saying, I will, and then proving it in action. Because every time you break a promise to yourself, you weaken your spirit. And every time you keep one, no matter how small, you build unshakable confidence. The Stoics knew that self-respect is the foundation of all peace. If you say you'll train your body, train it. If you say you'll control your temper, control it. If you say you'll be better, prove it. In doing theirs, you become someone your future self can rely on. Most people think self-discipline is restrictive, but in truth, it's the only path to freedom. Without it, you're a slave to impulse, laziness, and comfort. And yet, discipline alone isn't enough. It must be paired with persistence. Commitment gets you started, but persistence keeps you going. The Stoic knows that progress often feels invisible. You may not see the results today, or even tomorrow, but every act of effort compounds silently in the background. Life rewards consistency, not intensity. The river doesn't carve the rock through force. It carves it through patience. So when you feel stuck, remind yourself that persistence is the ultimate Stoic virtue. Every repetition strengthens your will. Every failure refines your strategy. Every setback teaches you endurance. The Stoic does not quit when tired. He rests, recalibrates, and continues. The modern mind wants quick fixes. The Stoic mind seeks mastery. Because mastery is not about perfection. It's about progress. It's about showing up for your purpose day after day until excellence becomes your nature. When you take your responsibilities seriously, but not yourself too seriously, you begin to flow through life with grace. You stop chasing motivation and start cultivating momentum. And that's when something incredible happens. Discipline turns into identity. You no longer force yourself to act. Action becomes who you are. The Stoic wakes up not needing to convince himself to do what's right. He simply does it, because it's his nature now. So remember, your habits are the architects of your destiny. Every disciplined act is a brick laid toward peace, resilience, and freedom. When you look back years from now, it won't be the grand gestures that defined you. It will be the quiet, daily choices. That's where true transformation lives. As Seneca said, "He who is brave, he is free." And discipline, my friend, is the highest form of bravery there is. There's a quiet pain in realizing that the people and things you once couldn't imagine living without eventually become memories. Friends drift away, lovers become strangers, and moments that once felt eternal fade like smoke in your hands. Most people resist this truth. They cling, they fight, they refuse to accept that everything changes. But the Stoics understood something profound. The only constant in life is change. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Loss is nothing else but change, and change is nature's delight." To the Stoic, letting go isn't weakness, it's wisdom. It's not the act of giving up, it's the art of acceptance. When we hold too tightly to what's passing, we suffer twice. First from the loss itself, and then from our refusal to accept it. But when we learn to release with grace, peace follows. The Stoic doesn't deny his pain. He simply refuses to let it enslave him. He knows that attachment to what is temporary leads to unnecessary suffering. Whether it's a person, a dream, or a version of yourself that no longer fits, the hardest truth to face is this: some things are meant to end. And when they do, life is not punishing you, it's preparing you. Sometimes the universe clears space for new growth by removing what no longer serves you. Letting go is not losing, it's making room. Imagine standing on a shore, holding sand in your palm. The tighter you grip, the faster it slips away. That's how life works. You can't stop change, you can only flow with it. The Stoics learned to love the flow. They practiced amor fati, the love of fate. They didn't just accept what happened, they embraced it fully, trusting that every event, even pain, had purpose. When you adopt this mindset, heartbreak becomes a teacher, failure becomes a guide, and endings become beginnings. You stop asking, "Why me?" and start asking, "What is this trying to teach me?" That shift is where sufferance, transforms into strength. In today's world, people confuse letting go with indifference. But Stoic detachment isn't coldness, it's clarity. It's understanding that love doesn't mean possession and peace doesn't require permanence. The Stoic can love deeply and still let go gracefully, because his happiness doesn't depend on control, it depends on perspective. He doesn't demand life to bend to his expectations. He adapts to what is. When relationships end, when opportunities vanish, when seasons of life close, he doesn't crumble. He bows to impermanence, knowing that nothing real is ever lost, only transformed. But letting go isn't a one-time decision. It's a daily discipline. Every day, you'll have to release something, an expectation, a regret, a resentment, an illusion of control. Some days, you'll have to let go of people who no longer match your growth. Other days, you'll have to let go of the person you used to be. That's why Stoicism feels like both a philosophy and a purification. It burns away attachments until only truth remains. The truth that you own nothing, not even tomorrow. And in that realization lies the greatest freedom a human can experience. Because once you stop clinging, you start living. So when the world takes something from you, don't ask how to get it back. Ask how to move forward. That's the Stoic way. To release with gratitude, to endure with dignity, and to trust that life always replaces what it removes, sometimes with something better, sometimes with wisdom. Either way, you win. The Stoic walks lightly through life because he carries nothing that weighs him down. His peace doesn't come from what he holds on to. It comes from what he's learned to let go of. And that, perhaps, is the most powerful lesson of all. There's a reason the Stoics called the mind a fortress, because everything begins and ends there. The greatest wars are not fought on battlefields, but within our own consciousness. Every doubt, fear, temptation, and burst of anger you've ever felt, that's the real war. Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." Freedom isn't about power, status, or wealth. It's about control over your own impulses. The Stoics believed that the most dangerous enemy you will ever face is the one inside you. And that enemy wears many faces: laziness, pride, fear, overthinking, greed, and desire. Defeating them is the essence of Stoic mastery. But how do you conquer yourself? It begins with awareness. Most people live on autopilot, reacting instead of responding, driven by emotions they don't even understand. The Stoic learns to observe himself as if from above, seeing his anger, his ego, his desires without judgment. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This single sentence, if lived fully, can transform a life. When you stop trying to control others and start mastering your reactions, you become untouchable. You stop giving away your peace so easily. You stop letting the outside world dictate your inner world. Self-mastery isn't about suppressing emotion. It's about understanding it. It's about catching yourself before anger turns to action, before pride blinds your vision, before fear freezes your progress. It's about becoming the observer instead of the prisoner of your thoughts. Imagine standing before a mirror every morning, not to fix your face, but to study your soul. Ask yourself, who's in control today? My higher self or my impulses? Because the truth is, the stronger your self-control, the fewer regrets you'll have. The Stoics didn't aim for perfection. They aimed for progress. A decision, one reaction, one victory at a time. The ego, however, is a clever adversary. It whispers that you're always right, that you deserve more, that your worth depends on recognition. But Stoicism dismantles this illusion. Seneca warned, "A man is great not because he has conquered nations, but because he has conquered himself." The Stoic learns humility through hardship, patience through failure, and strength through restraint. He knows that the higher you climb in mastery, the more silent your ego must become. Because true power doesn't announce itself, it simply is. The strongest minds don't need to prove anything. They just live in alignment with their values. Yet this mastery isn't achieved once. It's practiced daily. Every day you'll be tempted by distraction, anger, comfort, and pride. Every day, life will test whether your discipline is genuine or performative. That's why Stoicism isn't a philosophy you read, it's one you live. When someone insults you, can you stay calm? When plans collapse, can you remain steady? When success comes, can you stay humble? Those are the real measures of mastery. The Stoic strives not to be unfeeling, but unshaken. He doesn't seek to escape life's chaos. He seeks to stand firm within it. And here's the secret. When you finally conquer yourself, the world loses its power over you. You stop needing approval, because your worth no longer depends on others. You stop fearing loss, because you've already let go of what you can't control. You stop chasing pleasure, because you found peace within discipline. That's the paradox of Stoicism. By mastering yourself, you gain everything that cannot be taken away. You become steady, unmovable, and free. The world may still test you, but it can never defeat you again. For as Marcus Aurelius said, The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. Choose your thoughts wisely, Fee, or they are the paintbrush of your destiny. If there's one truth that levels all men, it's this: you will die. The Stoics never ran from this truth, they meditated on it daily. Memento mori, remember you will die, was not a morbid obsession, but a call to live with clarity. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do, say, and think." Most people live as if they have forever. They waste years chasing approval, comfort, and distraction, never realizing how fragile their time truly is. The Stoic looks at death not with fear, but with focus. For him, mortality is the ultimate motivator. It reminds him that every sunrise is borrowed, every breath a privilege, every choice a seed of legacy. Imagine if you lived with that awareness, not fearfully, but intentionally. You'd stop delaying what matters. You'd stop waiting for perfect conditions to start living with purpose. You'd realize that time isn't something you have. It's something you spend. And you're spending it right now, with every decision you make, every thought you entertain. The Stoics didn't measure life by its length, but by its depth. Seneca said, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." Most people fear dying too soon. The Stoic fears living too shallow. That's why he strives not for fame or comfort, but for virtue, for excellence of character, for mastery of the self, for alignment with truth. Purpose, for the Stoic, isn't found. It's forged. It's created through service, through discipline, through contribution. You don't stumble into a meaningful life. You build it with consistent intention. Marcus Aurelius didn't dream of glory. He dreamed of duty. Epictetus didn't crave wealth. He pursued wisdom. Seneca didn't seek immortality. He wrote to ensure others lived better. Each lived as if their time was short, and because of that, their influence became eternal. That's the paradox of mortality. Those who accept death most fully live most vividly. When you stop running from the end, you start running toward meaning. But living with purpose isn't about grand gestures. It's about presence. It's about being fully alive in each moment, whether you're sweeping floors or building empires. The Stoic knows that the value of life isn't in what you achieve, but in how you live while achieving it. To act with integrity when no one's watching, to do your best work even when unnoticed, to love without attachment, to think without vanity, that's purpose. Because purpose isn't something external you chase. It's an internal compass that keeps you aligned with virtue. The more you act in harmony with it, the lighter your soul feels. There's an incredible stillness that comes from understanding your mortality. You stop fearing failure, because in the face of death, what does failure even mean? You stop wasting energy on trivial things, because you realize how precious every minute is. The Stoic doesn't deny emotion. He transcends it through understanding. He looks at his own death not as an ending, but as a teacher whispering, "Make this day count." That's why the Stoic is calm amidst chaos, kind amidst cruelty, and steady amidst uncertainty, because he knows that soon all of it will pass, and what will remain is the character he built through it. So when you wake up tomorrow, don't ask, "What do I have to do today?" Ask instead, "What kind of person will I be today?" Because life isn't measured in years, it's measured in virtues lived, lessons learned, and hearts touched. The Stoic doesn't seek to escape death, he seeks to honor life. He lives so fully, so deliberately, that when death finally comes, it finds him already awake. Remember, you can't choose how long you live, but you can choose how deeply you live. That choice, made each day, is what makes you immortal.
La.
When you truly understand Stoicism, you realize it's not about being emotionless. It's about being unbreakable. Life will test you. It will strip you of plans, people, comfort, and even your own certainty. But the Stoic does not collapse when the storm comes. He becomes the calm inside it. Marcus Aurelius led an empire while enduring betrayal, war, and personal loss. Yet he wrote nightly reminders to himself, not of power, but of humility. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. That's the Stoic's secret. Not control over the world, but over himself. Because once you govern your thoughts, the world can no longer enslave you. Every challenge you faced, every heartbreak, every failure, every sleepless night wasn't meant to destroy you, but to reveal you. Pain, as Seneca wrote, is the training ground of the soul. You learn patience through delay, courage through fear, resilience through defeat. And when you finally see that, you stop asking, why me? And start asking, what can I learn from this? That shift is where peace begins. The Stoic doesn't resist difficulty. He refines himself through it. The broken pieces of your past are not flaws. They're the forge that shaped your strength. Don't curse them. Honor them. Because one day you'll look back and realize the storm you thought would break you was actually preparing you for the calm you live in now. In a world obsessed with validation, the Stoic walks differently. He doesn't need applause. He doesn't need to prove anything. His approval comes from within. He measures success not by wealth or status, but by integrity and effort. He's content with little but capable of much. When others chase noise, he seeks silence. When others react, he reflects. When others follow, he leads, quietly, steadily, purposefully. That's what makes him unshakable. The Stoic life isn't glamorous, but it's powerful. Because when you live with virtue, you stop chasing happiness, and happiness starts chasing you. Look around you. Most people are lost, running from one distraction to another, hoping to fill an emptiness they don't understand. But the Stoic knows that emptiness isn't a curse. It's an invitation to turn inward, to rebuild the foundation of peace that doesn't depend on anything external. You don't have to escape the world to find peace. You just have to master yourself within it. You have to realize that no amount of success will make you happy if your soul is still at war with itself. The real journey is not outward, it's inward. The real wealth is not what you acquire, it's who you become. Every morning is a chance to begin again. Every evening is a chance to reflect and realign. That's the rhythm of the Stoic life. Wake with gratitude, act with intention, rest with peace. You can't control whether life is fair, but you can control whether you are just. You can't choose how others treat you, but you can choose whether you remain kind. You can't avoid death, but you can live so deeply that death loses its grip on you. That's the paradox that Marcus, Seneca, and Epictetus all understood. When you stop fearing loss, you gain everything. When you stop running from discomfort, you grow stronger than fear itself. So, let this be your reminder. You're not here to be perfect. You're here to be present, to grow, to serve, to live each day with the clarity that you could leave life at any moment. Let that awareness make you fearless, humble, and unstoppable. Stop waiting for the world to change. Become the person who changes their world through action, wisdom, and grace. Live with virtue, not excuses. Love without attachment. Act without hesitation. And when your time comes, meet death not as an enemy, but as an old friend, proud of the life you've lived and the strength you've built. Because the Stoic doesn't fear the end. He honors the beginning that lies within every ending.